This week's parsha is Parshas Toldos, and it starts off with the words Ve'ele Toldos Yitzchak ben Avraham, Avraham hoiledes Yitzchak. And these are the generations or the children of Yitzchak, the son of Avraham. Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak. Rashi, in his commentary, picks up on the obvious question. Why is it necessary to repeat that Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak? You've just said these are the children of Yitzchak ben Avraham, so we know that Yitzchak's father was Avraham. Why is it necessary to say that Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak? And Rashi explains, because there were Leitzonei Hador, there were the mockers and the knockers of the generation who disbelieved that Sarah could give birth to a child at such an old age, and Avram was very, very old at that time. It was a completely supernatural birth, and they thought that perhaps they'd adopted a child from the marketplace. They'd brought something in from the outside. They didn't think that they had miraculously given birth to them. So what did Hashem do? The Almighty made the face of Yitzchak similar to the face of Avram, and everybody saw that in facial features this was the son of Avraham. So these are the Eila told us, these are the progeny of Yitzchak, the son of Avraham, and immediately the pasuk tells us, the verse tells us that since Yitzchak was in facial features similar to Avraham, Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak. Yitzchak was the first one that had a bris, that had a circumcision at the age of 8 days old. And he was the first one that had a bar mitzvah at the age of 13. The verse in the Torah says, Vayas Avraham mishta gadol b'yom higomel es Yitzchak. Avraham made a great feast on the day higomel, that Yitzchak was, usually we translate it as he was weaned. There are various interpretations of this verse. One interpretation is Hey Gimel Mol. Higomel stands for Hey and Gimel. Numerically, Hey is a 5, Gimel is a 3. 5 plus 3 is 8. Mol is from the word Mila. In other words, this feast Avram made when Yitzchak had his bris milah at the age of 8 days old. Another interpretation is, B'yom Higomel, is that he made a feast on the day of Yitzchak's bar mitzvah. Avram didn't have a bar mitzvah. The first one to have a bar mitzvah was Yitzchak. And he was weaned on that day from his Yetzer Hara, from his evil inclination, and there was the full entrance of his Yetzer Tov, of his good inclination, on the day of his bar mitzvah. So, either we can say that Avram made a great feast on the day that Yitzchak was circumcised, or we can say that he made a great feast on the day that he celebrated his bar mitzvah. The Medrash tells us that at that great feast, the great people of the generation came. One of those people of the generation was a giant called Og, the king of Bashan. And when he took a look at Yitzchak, either as a 8-day-old child or as a 13-year-old, he said, I can destroy this progeny of Avraham with my little finger. In other words, Og laughed, and he was completely not excited by this small child. And it says that the Almighty responded to Og and said to him, Chayecha, by your life, that the grandchildren of this little child will eventually kill you. And this is exactly what happened. It was in fact Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, who killed Og Melech HaBashan, who had laughed when Yitzchak was circumcised or when he was bar mitzvahed. The circumcision represents the connection of a Jew which transcends his intellect. We circumcise at the age of 8 days old. It's the physical imprint on the Jew that connects the Jew to God higher than nature, represented by the number 7. On the 8th day, something which transcends intellect, something which will be carried around with them as a physical imprint of their bodily connection and covenant with God all the days of their life. The day of the Bar Mitzvah is the day that we're weaned from the evil inclination, and there's the entrance of the good inclination. A person takes upon themselves the yoke of mitzvahs. And it's specifically at that moment that the mockers and knockers of the generation come. And the Jew, in fact, could legitimately claim, how on earth am I supposed to go through life when I'm surrounded, the environment is not conducive to the keeping of Torah mitzvahs? And not only that, there are the mockers and knockers of the generation who point a finger at me and they say that they could destroy me even with their little finger. Where do I get the energy? Where do I get the audacity even to go out into the world? Says the Sedra of Toldos.wmv, who gives the potential, the capability, the empowerment for Yitzchak, for the progeny of Yitzchak? Avram Hoiledes Yitzchak. It was the way Avraham conducted himself. Avraham, at that very feast which Og was present, he pronounced and he proclaimed that God is the God of the world. In fact, Avraham was called Avraham HaIvri, the God of the Hebrews. Ivri means the other side. Even though he was on one side and the entire world was on the other side, he wasn't excited by that. He did faithfully what he needed to do, and he proclaimed, Vayikra Sham, he called there, B'Shem Hashem, in the name of God, Kael Olam, that God is the God of the world. And it doesn't say Kael HaOlam, the God of the world, meaning that the world is one thing and God is something separate, but God is in control of the world. No, Kael Olam, God creates ex nihilo, something from nothing. Every single second, with a pulsating divine creative energy, this entire world. And because Avram proclaimed that, even in the face of Og Melech HaBashan, of the mockers and the knockers of the world, he gave the ability to his children after him, that they too, with the connection of the circumcision, and with the acceptance of the yoke of mitzvahs at the age of Bar Mitzvah, that they could go through life, and that they could defy the history books, they could defy the chieftains of history who had sworn to obliterate them, and they would in fact survive them. And that is in the power of Avram, in the power and the ability to swim against the current, whatever the current prevalent notions and experiences and mores, social mores there are out there. The Jew has managed to survive them all by proclaiming that God is the King and the Master of the universe, the Creator of all, and having that connection with God that transcends their own intellect and gives them the ability to accept the yoke of mitzvahs in all conditions. This is the lesson we can learn from Toldos. The main progeny of a person are their good deeds, their mitzvahs, and their maasim tovim, the good deeds and the learning and the acts of kindness which they do. Those can never be taken away from a person. And that's in a spiritual sense. In a physical sense, they are their children. Ve'ele Toldos Yitzchak, the children of Yitzchak, the progeny of Yitzchak, including the spiritual progeny, comes into being through Avram, through going in the path of Abraham, of proclaiming that the world is created by God and he is the true master of the world. And even though the whole world might be on one side and you're on the other, nevertheless, you can with hand on heart know the truth and go through life transcending all the prevalent tendencies around you and be strong in your Yiddishkeit and being faithful to the Almighty.